You're now listening to the sound.
Cannabis Community Project. Oh, yeah.
Open up, Colorado. It's 420. Time to grind and burn.
This is not your son's stoner show.
Welcome to the Grind and Burn, a podcast from the Cannabis Community Project, broadcasting live from the Dank Studios at 3835 Elm Street in Denver, Colorado. We are the first media show to bring businesses to cannabis. Hey Cannapreneurs, let me take a second just to tell you about Cushly Organic Products. Their company puts out products that are used in hospitals, healthcare facilities, clinics, and homes throughout the United States and beyond. So Cushly has invented this very unique product that works like none other. I use it myself, and many of my close friends and family use it. What it does is it eliminates odor. It doesn't mask it. It's not a perfume. It's not a cologne. It eliminates it. And it's organic and it's non-toxic. And Cushly is one of the best. www.cushly.com. Also find them on Facebook and other social media under the same name. Cushly Organic Products.
Let's go. Let's go.
2, 1. Hey, Cannapreneurs, how is it going? Welcome to a very special blossom to the Cannabis Community Project on a day like no other. The time you are listening to this, I am thoroughly in party mode. It's my birthday. Raise your hand up in the air. Birthday like you just don't care. Thank you very much preemptively for all of your birthday wishes in the what I imagine to be mounds and mounds of FedEx, UPS, USPS, mailing letters, cards, emails. I'm sure the nation will be in celebration today as June 19th is celebrated as the birthday of your own brainstorm.
Hey, happy birthdays. Happy birthdays. Thank you for free sound.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday. You're old. Get drunk.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to
You know, birthday, it's funny because I listened to the Adam Carolla show and he talks about how birthdays are a waste of time celebrating simply the day you were born. What we should have is a yearly day of accomplishments, accomplishment day. Wow. So I guess I just rather celebrate my birthday personally because looking at my accomplishments, trying to add them up, qualify them, quantify them, put them into some form of realistic bragging rights, I'm not sure if I'm ready to do that. I don't think my self-esteem is high enough to allow me to do that. You know, it's funny, I've been doing this coming up on 3 years and I don't really feel like I'm succeeding at it, but I'm still pushing forward. So I guess in that sense, I'm kind of a success, right? As long as I keep doing it. I don't know. I get my inspirational speeches all mixed up. What I think I'm supposed to do is just keep moving forward and keep trying to improve, regardless of success or not. I guess for those of you that know me and those of you that understand I'm obviously joking, don't acknowledge my birthday. I'm not one of those people that needs to be an adult celebrating my birthday. Just simply a congratulations and maybe kick me a bud or slide me a beer and I'll be happy. Even a hearty handshake and a twinkle in your eye is enough for me to celebrate one more year of life, one more year of CCP. I don't need to put on an event, at least not for a birthday. I mean, I'd love to do events, right? Matter of fact, I am doing more events. I'm going to be involved in more events. I just came from an event last weekend, Hemping in the Mountains. Who was there with me? That was very cool. Netherland, Colorado. This is deep in the mountains, just outside of Boulder. This is the heart and beauty of Colorado. If you talk about the Rocky Mountain High, what John Denver was singing about, he had to have been somewhere around there. I know he was probably off in Aspen somewhere, but it's the same thing. It's very close. It's the mountains, and we are hemping in it with Thomas Ivory Jr. Thank you very much, sir, for putting that on, hosting that, allowing me to camp out for the night, bring my tent, hang out with the fellers around the campfire, listen to the music that everybody was strumming along. It was such a great night to hang out with artists, creative people, hemp passionate people, inspired to be alive type people, and have great conversations and topics and exchange art and play the guitar together and sing songs and come up with poems. And so it sounds a little hippie-ish, right? It sounds a little hemping in the mountains, hippie in the mountains. Well, maybe some of you, but hey, there were people of all types there. We had all types, and I'm all types. I mean, anybody that knows me would have a hard time really defining exactly who or what I am, and I'm not sure if I just complimented or insulted myself, but I'm kind of a weird guy. I don't fit into a lot of groups, and I don't have a real defined genre in my look. You know, I don't dress hip-hop. I don't dress as a skater. I'm not a stoner. I'm not just a straight-up businessman. I don't have the hipster look. I don't have a studious nerd mathematician look. I don't know where I fit in life, so maybe this birthday, coming up on the years, it's time for me to do some more self-reflection and figure out not where do I just fit in a career or an industry, but in my life as well, and who I am. Become more aware of who I am and maybe what I am. And that will help me on the path of what I should be doing, which probably, as everybody seems to be hinting at, is where you find your success. So maybe if I'm not having success in this, maybe this isn't what it was quote-unquote meant to be, right? Maybe the Cannabis Community Podcast is just a passing of what I was truly meant to do to be successful. So maybe I've yet to find that, right? Young age, middle age, old age, it doesn't matter. As long as you're in the pursuit, you're in the search, then I think you can celebrate a birthday as an achievement day, even if you don't necessarily have that list or spreadsheet of quantified achievements that you can show, right? This is why it's important to have a network and friends, so your self-esteem doesn't bring you down to the point of wanting to jump off a cliff. You also got to work together with people. And that's hopefully what Thomas Ivory Jr. and I can keep doing with his events, Hemping in the Mountains. Maybe he can come and do some writing and blogging, some segments for the show. We can expand our networks to each other and meet more people just like you, right? Just like you to come on to the show, just like you to start a business, just like you to be part of whatever it is that you had a desire one day to be. I know a lot of you are probably thinking, well, how could I possibly have had a cannabis desire as a kid? That didn't come on to at least junior high, right? It's not about cannabis, folks. It's not about cannabis. Cannabis is the catalyst. Cannabis is what we use. It's the symbol, right? But it's not really about cannabis. Cannabis just symbolizes something else. And I'm not going to explain it for you. I'm not going to spell it out, because that is the journey we're supposed to be on. And maybe if we had this understanding that was passed down through our parents, instead of just a standard finish school, go to college, get a job, pay your mortgage, make sure your kids follow that same path, maybe we would have more happiness. Maybe things like the tragedy in Orlando could be averted, because deep down, you have to be a pretty disturbed person, for whatever motives you claim it to be, to take another person's life. Disturbed whether you're so psychotic you don't know what you're doing, or disturbed where you're just so emotionally dark you indulge in it. Either way, these are some dark times with some dark souls walking around out there. And I'm not here to interject my political feelings. I'm not here to talk about guns, thumbs up, or guns, thumbs down. I'm not here to talk about whether this was about terrorism or homosexuality. That's not what I'm here to talk about. It's not what my show's about. That's not what I'm about. And I'm not sure where that conversation even takes us to really better society. And it really seems like mainstream media has that conversation covered pretty well. So here on the CCP, why don't we look at tragedies like Orlando as a way to re-examine our own lives and those around us, and ask the question, do we know our neighbors And what are we doing to help our neighbors thrive in our society and our community so they can find their own happiness? So when they celebrate a birthday, they can have something to look back on and say, here's some achievements, here's some friends, here's a life I've built for myself. Rather than year after year grinding into these dark thoughts that people get up in and into these ideologies and get into these twisted ideas about the world, and it just takes you out of perspective. Now, is it as simple as just saying maybe this dude should smoke a joint and chill? Absolutely not. But it's saying smoking a joint and chilling is symbolic to really what we should be doing anyways as a society. Because when you have a society where the attitude is, hey bud, whoever you want to be it. Whatever you want to do, do it. Let's just smoke a joint and chill. And we can talk about it and have a few laughs. If that's the society we live in, how could we possibly breed violence? And it's not just Orlando or any other incident. It's not about just drug war in general, like what's happening in Mexico with the violence in other parts of the world. It's a whole shift in attitude, and it's not a hippie attitude, but it does involve cannabis. Who are you going to be? Who are you going to be? So don't just listen to this show for shits and giggles and laughs, joking and smoking. Don't just listen to find some new people that you can reach out to and expand your network. Don't just use it as a way to just say you listen to cannabis shows. Use it as a way to change your life and the lives of those around you, using cannabis as a catalyst, a symbolic gesture of where we should be striving towards. That's all I have to say on the matter. Grinding and burning cannabis.
Hello, my name is Aaron Rydell. I am the co-founder of Salt Creek Hemp Co. in Colburn, Colorado, and we're changing the world one hemp plant at a time. Everybody's heard of Palisade Beaches. There's some really neat stuff. I was actually just in Palisade the other day. It's just up the road from us, and there's some neat little breweries, distilleries, things just popping up. And we formed that corporation just this year. And yeah, we're expanding into a bed and breakfast that really has just unlimited potential. We're really more concerned with the education and people just being able to come somewhere. You know, nobody had ever grown hemp there. Nobody around us was growing hemp other than a CBD operation with the heavily manicured soil, the nutrients added, all that. We wanted to go for a more traditional hemp crop. So with a ranch, I don't believe anything will ever carry a ranch, any one thing. Because that's where we'll go with the farming aspect, the agriculture aspect is we do want to bring hemp to the Western Slope on a big level, and get to those 1,500, 2,000 acre, even if it's not on our land.
You have an angle where you're trying to incorporate the tourism with a hemp doob ranch, which gives you something, right? To
Totally.
just say you're going to be a hemp farmer, it would be a lot of like, hey, there you go, good for you.
Yeah, right on. We've been over here in the Front Range living for the last 10 years and watching it get more packed and more everything is, for people to have a place to go and maybe get away from that. With hemp, the problem is that information. It's just, I feel like Wikipedia when I'm cruising around and people are constantly like, oh yeah, dude, I'm a total hemp connoisseur too. And I'm like, no, you just smoke weed, which is cool. Hemp's, it's our other thing. So, yeah, we totally want to continue all that education out there for sure. Yeah, some of these heavily funded operations are turning a profit and doing well. I know a few small guys that are doing all right, but it's not about that. I'd have to say pricing would be depending on package. You show up with your cooler of beer and your BLTs and you just want a camping spot, you're probably hanging out for $30, $40 a night. We have Salt Creek Hemp Co. right now is up and running. It's been going for about a year now. The Doob Ranch, we're just finalizing all of our logo and all of our stuff. So you would be eating a lot of farm to table, and we already know several chefs that are very interested in coming out. As the season goes along, we want to incorporate hemp into that. See how cool this is. It's great that I have good dialogue and I can build an idea for you. Please, by all means, spread the word. We love having people come out, and that's the initial opening team. We're teaming up with Colorado Hemp Company, Morris and Liz, and they're actually helping us produce another small event this year.
I'm going to be right there with everybody.
Perfect. Well, we would love to have you, and so an invitation to stay and an invitation to come out.
Hey, Cannapreneurs! Are you inspired by the stories you hear? Maybe it's time for you to tell your own story. Do it right here on this show, CannabisCommunityProject.com, or email me personally, brainstorm at CannabisCommunityProject.com. Dairy Berry's recording studio, located in Arvada, Colorado, is your local recording studio with affordable rates. Mark is well experienced and will make your show, music, or any audio you have sound great. He makes our show come across the internet loud and clear every week, and he can do the same for your project or band. Take a look at Dairy Berry's recording studio or call Mark at 303-456-8216.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is David Bush. I'm the president of the Industrial Hemp Research Foundation, and I'd like to welcome you to the very first fundraising activity that the IHRF has put on. We're at the Greenhouse in Denver, and we have a lot of interesting things going on today. We have several speakers on the general topic of industrial hemp on the cutting edge in Colorado. So we have people talking about some of the newest developments and most recent happenings in the industrial hemp industry. We have some demonstrations going on for hemp fiber, hemp building materials. We have some people who are in the industry selling consumer products. They're here today to sell some of their products and show them off. And we also have a very interesting silent auction that features a lot of hemp-related products as well as some other things. While they're at it, we also have some good refreshments, and I think we're just going to have a very good time networking with one another and learning more about the hemp industry.
My name is Rick Trojan. I'm one of the owners of Colorado Cultivars, which is a hemp farm here in Eaton, Colorado. We grew 300 acres last year. We're going to grow about between 1,500 and 2,500 this year. We have a retail CBD line called Moonrise Extracts, where we sell organic CBD tinctures, capsules, and honey. And then we do bulk CBD sales as well. And then I have a project called the Hemp Road Trip, where we would go across the country promoting hemp businesses, and trying to pass the Industrial Hemp Farming Act.
Ooh, that would be cool to take a video camera along with. And,
absolutely. Yeah.
Turn that into a little TV show, documentary type thing. So what is your specific company or industry focusing on?
So Colorado Cultivars, the farm, is focused this year on CBD oil, CBD extract, and grain for food.
Meaning you're focusing on doing the extract or just growing the seed and passing it off to somebody else?
So we're full seed to sale operations. We're the first real company in the U.S. to really look at hemp from an industrial standpoint. So we do industrial, commercial, agricultural equipment, planting, harvesting, tracking, and then we developed a processing company as well. So we process out the seed, clean it. We can dehull it for our end customer. We can sell the whole grain as well. And we created our own industrial CBD extractor using cold temperature ethanol.
So I'm curious because I've talked to a couple individuals who have businesses where they've chosen a piece of the pie to focus on. You're choosing a seed to sale. Just very quickly, what was the thought behind choosing one aspect of the process versus the seed to sale?
So we started with a farm, right? And at 300 acres, right, you have to look at it. It's a different animal than at 30 acres or 50 acres or even 100 acres. There wasn't really processing that could process. There wasn't processing around that could process at that capacity. So we had to develop our own. There wasn't really a regular or a testing infrastructure that was sufficient. So we had to develop our own sister testing company as well. So we essentially developed three companies: Colorado Cultivars, Stage 1 Processing, and then Apex Testing. So just as a function of necessity, had to bring all of that in-house.
Because it wasn't in the
It wasn't available,
so you had
yep.
to do it. Are you growing seed for oil?
We are not.
You're not. You're growing stock.
We're growing seed for planting, right? Viable seed for planting, and then we're growing seed for grain, for cereal, for food products. So we just signed a contract with Evo Hemp. They are going to be in partnership with us, the first food manufacturer in America, American food manufacturer, to offer a domestic hemp-based product in over 80 years. So they have their hemp snacks and their flavored seasoned hemp seeds are all our hemp. They're domestic hemp from Colorado.
And by domestic, meaning we're growing it here, processing it here, we're selling it here.
Exactly.
Are you going to be able to get into a Costco eventually, or is this going to always be a local small business website sale?
I mean, the strategy moving forward, obviously, we'd like to get into that. But to get to that volume, you got to be doing tens of thousands of acres. We're obviously not there yet. We won't be there this year. Last year, from 300 going to either 5 or almost 10 times that this year, it's a big jump. Really, the bottleneck is in processing, right? Is the capacity that processors can handle. As we develop our processing technology and capabilities, other processors will also come online. If we can utilize their services, we can really expand the cultivation, the number of acres we're cultivating. So we'd be able to compete with Manitoba Harvest and those guys. But they're growing hundreds of thousands of acres up in Canada.
Massive.
We're a ways off.
What is the acquisition of land? Are you buying up land? Are you leasing land?
So we do a couple of different models. We're pretty flexible when it comes to it. We either partner with farmers and they can, we'll provide them with seed. They can either farm it or we can farm it for them, depending on where they're at and what they need. Or they can farm it and then we would just simply, give them a revenue stream on the back end. So we don't necessarily buy land. We don't make that capital investment. The partnership, the farmers that are in our company right now, they already own the land that we farm on, but they're part of our company as well. We have a really good team around us.
So the infrastructure is the farmers in place. They sell to you or you own it and then you pay them a royalty?
It depends on the particular model. With the farmer group that we did for the 300 acres last year, they own the land, they farmed the land. They're all part of our company. Our company owned the products from that land and from that processing, right? The farmers would process, they own the processing, they own all the equipment, they own the processing entity. Moving forward, we're working with farmers kind of in an affiliate program. We would provide them with the seed to plant, and then in exchange, they would farm the land, and at the end of the day, we would buy back products from them at a certain set price.
And how are you doing the processing? Are you building plants? Are you, again, leasing? Are you using the infrastructure already in place?
We have a 20,000 square foot warehouse up near the pharma process that we use as our processing center now. Moving forward, we're going to need to expand that and find another location, probably next year, once we start doing larger and larger amounts. We're going to be at capacity this year with the 2,000 acres we're going to be planting. So next year, we'll probably need to expand or find either a third party to work with or expand and invest that capital expenditure into the assets and into the land. Yeah.
I mean, I know for farming, 2,000 is probably like, wow, but for hemp, it's huge.
Yeah.
Right? It's huge.
For 2,000, like we were in Iowa at the hemp road trip, and they said 300 acres. That they're like, oh, we can maybe try a plot of land of maybe 5,000 acres. And to me, I'm like, for hemp, I mean, I think it's going to be we were the largest single hemp farm in the U.S. last year, based on acres cultivated, and I believe we're going to be at least in the top 5 or 10 this year.
And this is all outdoor farming.
All outdoor.
Is it flood watering? What's the method?
Last year was pivot and a little bit of dry farming. Pivot, and we're going to be doing drip on some of the CBD only fields.
What does pivot mean?
Pivots, you see those large sprinklers that kind of on those wheelies that kind of go around. That's a pivot.
They do section by section and then just
a circular section essentially would be an entire pivot.
And then dry farming is just rainfall?
Yep. No irrigation, no artificial water at all, just rainfall.
And what was the other one you said?
And then this year we're going to be doing some drip tape. So there's flood irrigation. Drip tape is like what they do a lot with like wine. They'll do a lot of the vineyards will use drip tape.
Small hose running.
Yep, small hose and then just drips it in. Cool. A little more expensive of an option, but the beauty of having so many acres is we can try a couple different things and see what works and what doesn't, which will just help us fine tune our processes moving forward.
Is your company for profit or non-profit?
We're for profit.
Are you making a profit yet?
We are not.
What is the projection of time here?
The projections we had for last year was going to be very profitable. The projections we have for this year at least break a profit. The market we found last year, we were mostly CBD last year. The market was very fluid, a lot of people talked about it, wanted to get some, but a lot of people didn't end up purchasing. So it was just where purchases would fall through last minute. So it was a very fluid market, very uncertain market. So this year, and that's part of the reason I went on the road trip, was because we just need to educate people about what's going on, right? And help establish the market and educate people. I think a lot of that comes through just education. This year, we're expecting a better market. Already it's been a better market than last year, year to date at this time. We'll see how this year shapes up, but we're expecting at least turn a profit finally and make a little bit of money.
Are you competing against other companies at this point, or is everybody kind of collaborating?
I wish it was the latter. Unfortunately, there are other companies that do CBD extractions, whether it's domestic CBD, Colorado-based hemp that they extract for CBD, or whether they buy their CBD from overseas, like the Netherlands or Denmark or Germany. My personal view, is that the market's so small now and the industry is so new domestically, we don't really have time to compete. I don't want to compete over scraps at a table. I'd rather make the table bigger, right? I'd rather work, as collaboratively as we can now. And then in 5 years, when it's a $10, $20, $50 billion market, then we can start competing. But until we establish that market domestically, if we don't stand together, we're going to fall apart. I'm a big fan of helping the industry. I don't really call them competitors. I call them, or they're collaborators, but we sell the same product.
Probably same advice for medical marijuana side. Less competition, more collaboration.
Yeah, I think it's very, I met a guy in Johnson City, Tennessee on the road trip, and he sold CBD. And he's like, I'm selling to this health store. And I'm like, buddy, you know what? Honestly, take the store. Like, if you're worried about, you can focus on Johnson, Tennessee. We have hundreds of other cities, 50 other states to worry about. Like, if you're competing with me, you don't have a good strategy and you're not executing your strategy. Find your strategy, execute it, and then the rest will take care of itself.
Are you funding on a self-funding? Do you have investors? Or what's keeping the blood alive here?
Yep, cultivars, about half a dozen or so investors, and then self-funded the rest. Hemp Road Trip, we had a couple sponsors, but then I self-funded that piece of it, the educational project of it. And Moonrise Extracts is just an offshoot. It's just a branding name for cultivars. So the main company has been a combination of self-funding and investment.
Are you coming from a farming background?
I'm not. So I'm not a farmer. So I don't work in the field. I don't really know. I mean, the farmers are the backbone of our company, right? They're the engineers. They know. I mean, they're total respect for farmers and what they do. And the farming group that we have as part of our company are absolutely fantastic. So they have the equipment, the land, the know-how. They have a good reputation in the region. So getting from 300 acres to 2,500 acres, we really relied on their network of farmers. So I'm not driving the combines. I'm not really in the field. I let the smart people do what they do. And
is your background cannabis at all?
No, my background is business, entrepreneurship and business. So before I got in the cannabis industry, I owned a software company in the healthcare space, and I sold that one of my resellers. And then I traveled all over the country, and I was tired of traveling. So wanted to be here where my family is, and so I got in the cannabis industry because it would keep me in Colorado. And now I'm back on the road traveling again.
And that's what you're using to self-fund, is the sale of that company.
That money was spent.
Money
was spent a while ago. Money doesn't stick around, when you're trying different things. So
what's the big barrier that's holding you or the industry back, where if you had power, magic wand, control, what's stopping things from happening here? What do people need to realize is going on that we don't see?
I think really it comes down to the classification of cannabis as a Schedule I drug.
That's the barrier.
Because that barrier prevents banks from doing business with you, prevents insurance companies from insuring you. In fact, I was a tenant in another company that was cannabis related. I was a tenant at a facility that my landlord didn't pay his bills, got foreclosed on. The banks couldn't have a cannabis company as a tenant. So we had to terminate our lease early, which threw a monkey wrench and everything. So I think once it gets off the Schedule I, once it gets declassified entirely, as it should be right away, that will open up investments, that will open up banking, that will open up all sorts of, and also legitimize the industry as it should be legitimized. And also give farmers an option to grow a different crop.
Yeah, and I can't think of any other barrier that would prevent it, other than just technical barriers and financial barriers, but that's probably the only barrier that's preventing the industry from going anywhere. So what can people do? Myself, other people, what can we do to make your company, this industry, get to where it needs to go?
The number one thing that I would recommend, and I've been recommending all over the nation, is go to talk to your senators, talk to your congresspeople, let them know that they should co-sponsor and sign on to the Industrial Hemp Farming Act. 2016 is a critical year to take action now because 88% of our legislators are up for re-election. So we could really overhaul our legislators both on the federal and state level. And that's part of the reason we're on the road trying to get hemp as a legitimate issue in the election. So you can go to hemproadtrip.com. You can check out the Take Action tab. It'll give you a link where you just type in your address, and then it'll automatically send letters to your legislators. So very, very simple, straightforward. Or take a couple minutes and call them. Call the legislators. You can look up their information on the .gov websites. If they hear from us, they'll help put pressure on them, and really that's the best way we can do. We're a new industry. We don't have the lobby money that a lot of other industries, particularly big oil, pharmacy, we don't have that lobby money, right? So the only way we can do that is with our voice. That just takes everyone taking 5 minutes a week and just calling people or writing people. It's not rocket science, but it does take a little effort, and you really have to do something together.
Action, that's what we're all doing here today. This was a great event. Thank you for coming down and sharing it with all of us. Thank you for coming on my show and talking to us.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Please stay in touch for the future, because as things develop for you, I'd love to have the chance to keep reporting on what you're doing and how your business is growing and changing. So give me one future goal that we can look back on and say, on this day you predicted this for your company, and then we'll look back in like a year. So a year from now, where do you predict you'll be? And then we'll a year from now, we'll look back at this show.
I think by this time next year, we're going to be the largest domestic provider of hemp grain for food.
There you go. It's on tape.
Right on.
It's on digital tape.
I like it. Hold me to it. Feet on the fire.
So we'll look back in a year. So all you got to do is just stay in touch, keep me updated, and if you have anything that you'd like to promote or push to the show, let me know. We can sit down and do another talk. We can come out to a location if you have something big going on, and anything else. This is a community show. So
sounds good. I love it. Thanks for doing what you're doing.
Did you give me your
Appreciate
card already?
I did.
How did I get your card already?
We talked. You introduced yourself over there, remember? Over here. Awesome, brother. Appreciate it.
I appreciate
Thanks for
it.
the time.
Thank you.
We'll definitely be in touch. We'll let you come out to the harvest party and all that good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Man, that's cool.
I think Willie Nelson should be president.
Oh, yeah. Man, I doubt it.
How about this? Listen to this. Here's what I'm willing to do.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
Okay.
No, we're not going to do that.
And so it's come to be that the tools that paved our history seem to be their lies and selfish greed, and selling fear was key to protect an industry, stopping anyone from questioning when all for one means all for one. No room for we in this underworld democracy, when all for one means none for all. Can't you see this hypocrisy belongs to you and me, you and me, you and me? That this fantasy belongs to you and me. And it's so amazing that we hold the key to what we really need. Living green to win financially, but to expose the truth, conditioned on what we're not to do, to spark a change, accepting something new. We're all for one. All for one means all for one. No room for we in this underworld democracy.
Hi, I'm Douglas DeSanti. I've been in the commercial real estate business for 7 years, working for two major banks. I've underwritten over $1.5 billion in commercial real estate loans, and currently I'm a portfolio manager at a major bank with a portfolio of in excess of $2 billion of commercial real estate loans. And I'm starting a startup company called Weed Real Estate Incorporated, and we're going to be buying undervalued warehouse spaces and leasing them and buying them, going in, renovating them, and then selling them on the open market for double or triple the amount of capital we put into the building.
Wow, man, that sounds like a lot. I didn't realize you were jumping all in at first with all that. That's a pretty good background. So you're deep in the financial world in the financial district of the Manhattan area. Does that mean you do mostly commercial real estate, or do you have a cross between residential and commercial? What's your specific real estate background?
I've solely focused in the commercial real estate area. I've worked on underwriting and managing loans from warehouse building to retail, office, co-op, condos. So I've seen pretty much everything in the commercial real estate industry. I felt like it was a perfect background to start up this startup company. Definitely a natural transition, especially anybody that understands what's happening in the cannabis real estate world and how valuable of an asset, of a resource, having the ability to open some type of cannabis center, and then I would think more difficult even being able to find a space. I know here in Colorado, these are two big issues that even the big dispensaries are dealing with, is where to find more space. It's a hassle and it's expensive. And the second anybody finds out what you're wanting to use the space for, it becomes exponentially more expensive. And these are a lot of the issues I assume you looked at beforehand and that you're probably dealing with now. What is your direct involvement with the states like Colorado and Washington and some of these others that are a little bit more on the legal side than where you are? Yeah, I've done a lot of research on the Colorado area, and our company will also be providing zoning services to real estate investors where properties are legally zoned in states like Colorado, Washington that have recreational cannabis legalized already, and states that are anticipated to legalize. And we've actually been very surprised to see, with such a growing and big industry as the cannabis industry is currently, that there are so few companies out there that provide these zoning services. Now, by zoning services, do you mean in a consulting type way where you will do some type of report and analysis of where property can be obtained and the price and help people work through the application processes, that style of zoning services? Yes. So we'll basically be providing a consulting service where you can either sign up for a monthly prescription or a one-time map of whatever area that you're interested in buying a building. And if you decide to go with the monthly subscription, we'll be sending you maps of wherever you would like the building to be located on a monthly basis. As you know, the zoning laws are changing, every couple months and evolving. So this is a service that I think actually really needed in the real estate industry. And there aren't many companies that offer this type of service.
Very cool. Let me suggest that you keep in touch with us, because here at the dispensary, we also have the Denver Consulting Group, which is another company on premise here, run by the same owners of the dispensary. And their main function is a consulting group assisting dispensaries open in various states around the nation and work through the application process. So there might be some really good crossover there. I know with all the other dispensaries I'm talking to, rental, ownership, space, in town, out of town, zoning, these are huge issues and a compliance nightmare. Probably one of the biggest fears that most people have is, how do I actually grow and find land, or how do I not have my landlord price me out of business because he knows what business I'm in and now he's charging me $10,000 for what used to be $1,000 a month type situation. There's a lot of issues to deal with real estate. What is your angle to kind of take on the market where to make it as easy as possible for people like dispensaries or other type businesses to start interacting with you?
Well, we're holding a media campaign right now where we've reached out to several investors that are interested in the company, several dispensary owners and real estate owners who are interested in our services. And a lot of the interest actually comes from states that are anticipating legalization, and real estate investors looking for space in those states where they can get in there early and get a leg up on the competition. For example, a state like Florida, which will be on the ballot in November, is anticipated to legalize medical cannabis for the first time. We've had a lot of interest in that state regarding trying to obtain warehouse and dispensary areas that will be properly zoned. We've had a media outreach going on for the last month, in contact with a bunch of investors who are very interested in joining the company, and we plan on holding a crowdfunding event over the next month or two, I would say, at startengine.com, where we'll be selling shares of the company for investors, which will be priced at 2 cents a share, and they can get in at the ground level of a cannabis company that should grow at a pretty quick rate.
Very cool. Yes, we are familiar with Start Engine. Not too long ago, about a month, maybe 2 months ago, we had MedX on the show, and I believe they used the same website for their crowdfunding, raised a couple $1 million. They have a pesticide, a non-toxic organic type application. I think it was 2.5 or something. Last time I checked, which was over a month ago, they were very successful using Start Engine, and I think their pricing was very similar. I believe it was just pennies per share type setup.
Yeah, I actually did some research on them. They're the first cannabis company to launch on a crowdfunding website, which you are 100% correct, on startengine.com. And we anticipate probably, most likely, being the second cannabis company to launch on Start Engine. As Reg A Plus Tier 2 approval we received from the SEC, which is a new piece of legislation that was just approved in 2015, which allows accredited and non-accredited investors to invest in companies like this, which used to not be the case where it had to be accredited investors. So now this gives everyone an opportunity to invest in a startup company like Weed Real Estate, have the opportunity to grow and expand with us right from the beginning.
Now, what is the money needed for?
That's a great question. So basically, to get to this point, it's been a very lengthy process with the SEC due to the industry I'll be operating in. But after about a year of submissions to the SEC, going back and forth, I received approval. I put in about $70,000 to $75,000 of my own capital with no loans against the company. So the company currently has no debt against its books, as well as the $1 million that I'm looking to raise, since I'm fortunate enough to work in the banking industry, and I'll be providing zoning maps to real estate investors. I've specifically located mortgages that are in trouble due to numerous reasons, that are currently owned that can be purchased for about $200,000, $250,000. These are very large warehouse buildings, zoned properly in states that are anticipated to get legalization in November. And with that $1 million I raise, I will go in there, buy that mortgage off the borrower, go in and through my real estate connections, through construction projects I've worked on, do the necessary construction to make it ideal for cannabis growers, which I anticipate being about $200,000 to $250,000. And this will be about a 6-month process. So I'll be infusing about from the purchase price to the renovations about $500,000 to $600,000 in the first building, and then I plan on selling that upwards of $1.2 to $1.5 million for substantial gains. Investors won't have to worry about after the initial raise of needing more capital to expand the company, because based on that initial investment and the sale of that first building, I'll be able to use that capital to rapidly expand the business.
I really like speaking to people who are professionals and well experienced and put a lot of thought into this, because most of the time I'm dealing with entrepreneurs who are just like, yeah, we need some money and we're gonna be big, and when you ask them a few questions they don't have any answers, and it's very refreshing to hear you have this very well thought out and broken down, and obviously your experience of years is coming through. You're the real deal, and hopefully this is going to be something that will be very successful, because regardless of whether I invest or anybody else invests, we need just more companies to be successful in cannabis so the overall industry and infrastructure can be built up. One question I had about the draw of investors. Are they coming to this speculating that the price of real estate for these zoned areas of cannabis is going to be so astronomical that you can do nothing but make money? Is that the initial draw? Kind of what I was hinting on earlier, what's happening here in Colorado is as soon as your landlord or whoever's leasing your building finds out what your business is, the rent all of a sudden doubles, triples, quadruples. Is that the draw of the investment here?
That's a great question. Again, my vision and goal for the company, when I hopefully am able to successfully raise the funds, is to go into states that are anticipated to legalize, like I stated, Florida, several other states, California, Nevada. Colorado is very saturated at this point. They've had a lot of success in that state. The taxes they raised have been unbelievable. And with that money I raised and my connections being in the banking industry and having access to mortgages that are in trouble, I don't anticipate going in there and negotiating with a owner of a warehouse building to lease it out to another tenant. I anticipate going in there, buying that real estate for below market prices for several reasons that I stated before, making it ideal for growers in that space that's going to be legally zoned, and then selling that property for, double or triple the price based on it being ideally situated for cannabis growers.
Okay, so you want to be the broker on the deal. Okay, I understand. This is similar when I found out that McDonald's is actually a real estate company, right? That they own the land and the franchisee takes on the burden of everything else. And McDonald's itself is just a large real estate company. And in a sense, you're not wanting to hold all that real estate in the same way, but you're not wanting to negotiate and be an intermediary and somehow an agent for both parties. You want to just buy and sell properties specifically for this industry. In a sense, just be the real estate agent, right? The broker on that.
Yeah, I feel like based on the experience I have in the industry that, I bring the perfect skill set to the table to execute this plan. I've done it with other buildings before, and with the cannabis industry just, growing and hopefully with more legalization, the opportunity to, buy some of these undervalued warehouse property, make them ideal for growers, and then put them on the market at premium prices is where the real money is to be made.
Is there a way to somehow quantify the entirety of potentially cannabis zone land in the U.S. that could exist, to somehow see what the total potential market capacity is of what each state would allow these zone plots to be, and then somehow do a calculation of what are we looking at in the near future? Are we looking at millions and millions of acres, or are we still looking at just a tiny percentage but a highly concentrated area of each state being utilized? Well, what do you foresee the future?
I perceive there's a lot of variables that go into it based on each state. For example, a state like New York, where I'm from, there's a lot more schools here, a lot more areas where properties would have trouble being legally zoned, whereas in other states that are much more rural, for example, like a state like Arizona, there's going to be a lot of areas in those states where there are going to be properly zoned properties. And it really all comes down to legislation. Once more states come aboard, and if the federal government ever comes aboard as well, that'll triple or quadruple the amount of business I'll be able to do, because not only will I have access to proper zoned properties, but I work in the banking industry, so not only will I be able to purchase those buildings, I'll be able to go out and get loans against buildings as well at premium interest rate based on my relationships in the industry, and really, really escalate the business to another level.
Nice. That definitely does have some perks, right? Having relationships. This is going to create the specialization of a cannabis exclusive realtor, right? Somebody who's not just a realtor, but who's exclusively a cannabis. Somebody who knows the zoning and the properties and the pricing just for this industry. So there's going to be the ability for maybe your company or another company to curate and develop and be the first to launch this wave of agents into the world who are cannabis specialists.
Yeah, I think that it'll definitely open the door to that. And I feel like there's still so much potential in the industry, and such in its infancy stages right now, that 3, 4, 5 years from now, where we could be in this industry could be way ahead of where we are right now. And the growth potential projections from many analysts in the industry expect this to be a $20 billion industry in 4 or 5 years, where we're about a $6 billion industry today. I don't see any industry currently in the United States that has more growth potential for realtors, for real estate, for the growers themselves than the cannabis industry right now.
Is this a purely cold, and not in a negative way, but just a cold entry into the cannabis market as you're looking at this as just purely a business venture, or do you have a more personal connection to the industry?
I do definitely have a more personal connection to it. Growing up, my grandfather basically served as my father, and he owned a small business where I would go work for him in a restaurant. When he moved here, he put all his money into the restaurant. I used to work there most of the time for very little pay or no pay at all, just to help him out, because I knew he'd be working 15 hours a day in the restaurant, and he still somehow found time to come to all my special events, sporting events, graduations. And a couple of years ago, when he, had cancer, it was a very tough time in my life. He was able to take advantage of medical cannabis, and when I saw him able to use that to relieve some of the pain he was in on a daily, hourly basis, it really opened my eyes to the benefit the plant has to patients that are sick. And he just had a real big impact in my life, and he was probably the biggest role model in my life. And seeing how the plant used as a medicine, the effects it can have on people, really opened my eyes a couple of years ago.
Well, that's usually, unfortunately, what it takes is some type of personal and usually a sadder type story to get people involved. Same with me, same with many people. It's that catch-22 is, how do you get people involved who aren't really in this industry, but how do you get them involved without having to have a tragedy or some type of sad story happen? And unfortunately, maybe it's just by doing everyday business, like a real estate company, and somebody asking you at a networking party, what do you do? I don't know.
Yeah, I think the November elections is a very key time for the industry based on how states vote on legalization. But I think you're going to see wealth managers, real estate investors drawn to the industry in the next few years based on its potential. I think we're already starting to see that to some sense. And I think it's only going to increase as time goes on.
What do you see your company or this initial vision that you've started developing into over the next 3 to 5 years?
I've given that some thought. I have a couple people that are joining me with the venture. I'd like to expand, employ more people in the industry, create more jobs. I'd like to grow this basically to a $15 to $20 million business in the next 3 to 5 years based on consulting services and real estate development. The reason why I feel like I can grow it to that potential is based on, after I make that first rehab and sell on the open market, I'll have double, triple the capital that I originally started with. So instead of working and concentrating on one building, 6 months later, I can go and buy 3 buildings and do the same thing and then put them back on the market for premium prices, just continue to buy more and more buildings as we are more successful. And I believe that the zoning industry that we'll be covering is, an untapped industry right now where we have a large potential to really grow our consulting side of the business as well.
Now, if we took cannabis out of the market, in general, what is the U.S. real estate market doing right now? Is it stagnant? Is it growing? Is it falling? What's the situation?
Right now in the real estate industry, if we're talking about, multifamily properties, commercial properties, properties are very, very, very highly valued right now. That's why investing in real estate right now is extremely risky. Cap rates currently are very low, and that's how we determine the value of the building.
Can you explain that cap rate?
Yeah, sure. So basically, to determine the cap rate, we see what other buildings in the area are being sold for and apply the NOI, which is the net operating income of the building, to the sale price of what the building's being sold for, and determining the cap rate based off that. Buildings are being sold for extremely high prices because rents are extremely high right now. And based on where rents currently are and where the economy currently is, there's just so much higher you can increase rent. So the NOI, the net operating income after the expenses, is basically a big factor in determining the value of the building, obviously. How much revenue is it creating? So I believe, being in the industry, that rents have almost topped out to where landlords can charge people that can actually afford that rent. They're extremely high. People are scrapping together all their money just to basically pay for rent, especially in the New York area. And that's another reason why the cannabis industry is so attractive for real estate investors as well, because a regular warehouse building, if you lease it out to a cannabis grower, you can get $15 to $20 a square foot. You buy a warehouse building and you lease that same warehouse building out to an office building or a supplier, someone that's going to utilize the building in a different way. You're looking at $5 to $6 a square foot. So you're looking at almost triple the square foot that you're going to receive on the properties.
Yeah, kind of hitting back to that initial question of what is the draw to the investors. It sounds like it's just a good business move by the math, that if you're in the industry of real estate, whatever side, residential, commercial, it's just more numbers on the cannabis side, right?
It's really that simple, and you want someone leading the company that's been in the industry, that's like myself, that's seen hundreds and hundreds of commercial real estate loans, every type of building you can think of. I've structured deals. I've worked on construction projects. I've seen it all, well educated. I have my MBA. I have my degree in finance. So, with my experience in the industry, I feel like I'm perfectly positioned to take advantage of the booming cannabis industry right now, and the real estate market is just really on fire in that industry right now.
Do you have any concerns, or have you experienced any negative blowback regarding coworkers, clients, even family? I mean, somebody who comes from a finance world, there's a reputation, right? There's credibility. There's a certain persona that you have to give off to maintain your status as a credible financial guru, advisor, whoever you want to call yourself. Have you noticed or experienced your entrance into the cannabis market at all affecting you in any negative way?
That's a great question again. And, when I decide to enter the industry, there's still a perception out there, whether it be from my own family or from friends, coworkers. Unfortunately, and I disagree with, it still has a little bit of a negative opinion about it, whereas, I believe it's a growing industry, a great industry to enter. It has so many benefits to people that need it for medical reasons. CBD oils, the medical benefits of that as well are tremendous. But to your original question, yes, I have seen that people do still have a negative opinion about the industry, and I see that as a shame because you have alcohol, for example, that's legal. No one has a negative opinion about that, and I strongly believe that it's actually much worse for you, alcohol, than the cannabis industry, and I just don't see it as being fair in a sense because alcohol is, in my mind, way, way worse than cannabis.
This is one of the times where we actually need to say to investors and kind of the corporate world is, let's leave emotions out of this. Let's just look at the money. And
yeah, it's really a shame. You go to a sporting event, you have a guy drink 10 beers, and it makes for an uncomfortable event with them being there with little kids compared to the cannabis industry, where someone won't act the same way as someone that had 10, 12 beers at a baseball game. I really feel that it's not right to the way people look at the industry compared to how people look at alcohol as no big deal.
do you have kids yourself?
I don't have kids, but that might be changing soon. But I do have a couple of young cousins that are big meth fans, so I love to bring them to games, and they have a great time. But like I said, you bring little kids to games, and you're surrounded by people that are drinking, and once they start drinking, things get out of control, and it's just unfortunate.
Sporting events are definitely not the symbol of the better things of what our society can offer. It's usually bad food, bad drugs, not the greatest people. There's not a lot in our society that's publicly offered that really reflects a more positive side of things. And I personally believe that cannabis can be one of those things that is publicly displayed in a positive way, because we just don't have those negative repercussions that come from people that are alcoholics and people that drink a lot. And it's just a fact of life. Alcohol does certain things to you in consumption. Cannabis doesn't. That's just the way it is.
I'm in complete agreement. Yeah, and just based on the scheduling of the drug by the federal government, it's just crazy that they schedule it. It's anticipated to hopefully change within the next few months, a year, having no medical benefits, they're claiming currently, which is by almost everyone that studies the plant says there are medical benefits to the drug. I've seen it firsthand. You've seen it firsthand. And they have it classed with hard drugs, which obviously are just terrible for you. And that's a big problem in the industry currently, having it scheduled where it is right now. If they make it a Schedule II drug, that'll allow scientists and researchers to actually start to research the plant in more detail, get more information about it. And I think that'll just help the industry grow to even another level.
Well, I foresee something bigger happening with your company that maybe you've thought about or maybe you haven't. You're going to be involved with real estate. You're going to be involved with zoning. You're going to be involved with local municipalities all around the country. What's going to naturally happen, inevitably, is there's going to be relationships and bonds formed on those local levels that are tied together with the bigger organization that is overseeing it, kind of what you're doing. And that is going to allow for the path of city councilmen, mayors, city planners, and all sorts of other people to be influenced through the means of lobbying, through the means of networking, and just simply through the interaction. Municipalities deal with real estate. I mean, that's not the federal government. If you're buying land, you're buying property, you're doing stuff like zoning, this is local business. And what's going to happen is that is going to naturally lead to a political crossover where I think you might find also an avenue to maybe lobby or just be an influencer on some of those key positions that people don't always think about when it comes to election time, right? People don't always think about their local city council and who's on the planning committee and who their local people are that we usually never vote for. But these are going to be the key factors in a business like a national real estate company dealing with cannabis.
I completely agree, and all the points you made were spot on. It's extremely important to have people operating companies in the cannabis industry, whether it's real estate, growing, whatever it may be, that are, passionate about it, well thought out, reasons why they believe there's a lot of benefits to it, well-spoken, educated people to bring credibility to the industry. Because once we bring credibility to the industry, like you said, it'll start to influence people, and we may see bigger and bigger changes to the industry on a legalization front by doing that.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe 2020 you'll be running for president under the Cannabis Party.
I might have to throw my name in the ring.
Very cool. Well, this has been very, very informational. I'm a little excited because I think you, just like when I was talking to MedX, I think you really have a potential here to be a big company in the industry and be one of the pillars that pulls this whole industry forward. It takes some very strong people who are good leaders and educated and experienced. And what better topic or background to come from than money, right? I mean, if you have to to come from some background, I guess money is probably a good place to come from if you're going to be building businesses.
It's about having passionate people in the industry that, really feel and seeing the benefits firsthand, like I was saying before, that can really make a difference on the political side of things to really push it forward. That'll really make a difference. And, I have a lot of well thought out position on the industry by an industry alone, and not even including my business. Just a lot of opinions and opinions that I can back up with facts of why that the cannabis plant should be legalized. And I think we're going to be there in a quicker time frame than most people think.
Well, now you have the platform, so anytime you have those opinions, thoughts, things you need to just get off your chest, this is the podcast where you can do that. You don't always need to talk about money or real estate. You're more than welcome to come back on and rant and rave about any specific topics you'd like. No, you're not restricted to only talk about business, right? Not everybody is business 100% of the time. So like myself, you may have opinions and topics outside of your specific profession, and you are more than welcome to come back on anytime to do little segments, commentaries. You can write a blog if you'd like, and I'll post that on my blog page. But speaking of people, resources, passionate people, there's probably a few of them who are going to hear this that want to find out more about what you're all about, what you're doing. So let's make sure to get them your contact information, your website, your social media, and I guess most importantly, your crowdfunding campaign site on the Start Engine. What information would you like to give out there for people to connect with you on?
Yeah, I'd love to hear from people, whether they're interested in investing in the company or just learning more about the industry itself, the plant, real estate side of things. It doesn't have to just be for people that are looking to invest in the company. The company can be found at www.weedrealestategroup.com. We're active on Twitter. We have a lot of conversations with people on there about the industry at Weed Real Estate, and I can be contacted at 646-481-5251, and I'm always more than happy to speak with anyone that has any questions about the company, whether they want to invest or just if they would like to talk about the industry and what's going on in it right now.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate your time this afternoon, and please consider it an open offer to come back, talk more about your company, talk more about real estate, talk more about financing, or just come back on and rant about any other topic you'd like. And I'm going to keep up on your crowdfunding campaign as I watch the numbers grow. I'm sure you're going to raise, what was it, $1 million you said? That what you're going for?
Yeah, the number hasn't been decided yet. I can raise up to $1 million based on SEC approval, but I'd like to keep a tight share structure and make sure the early investors are well taken care of and see big growth in their original investment and the chance they take on me. If I don't need the $1 million to execute on the plan that I need, I'm more than happy to lower that number. So I haven't exactly decided on if I'm going to go up to the entire $1 million, or if I decide that I could use less funds than that, and that's what I'll do. Because being the CEO of a public company, I have to make sure I take care of my shareholders before anything and make sure that they see a return on their investment. And I really appreciate you having me on the show. It's great talking to you about the industry and my company.
Excellent. Likewise. Thank you very much, and we'll be in touch again soon.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks again.
There you have it, Cannapreneurs. That's all I have for you this week. But make sure to stay in touch with us. Stay with us on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, Twitter, all the networks out there, even Mass Roots and YouTube. Make sure to follow us every week right here. Leave your comments, give us your feedback, be on the show. We want to see you every week. This is your community, so make sure to come back. We'll see you next week.